All right, Shalom. I want to start off, as always, by giving all praises and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rucha Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles, the elders, and the bishops of Great Millstone. I want to send much love to the brothers out there doing this work in truth and sincerity. And I also want to send peace and blessings unto the believers of the hopeful elect. And in this lesson, I want to get into a little history about the Greek Empire. And I wanted to go into Alexander the Greek, four generals who reigned after his death. Now, this topic here is going to be somewhat lengthy because it's history, man. All right. And these things take time, take patience. All right. I know that going into history is not an attractive topic unto, most people. But hey, man, if you want to be a student of these scriptures and to know the mystery of the scriptures, you got to get into the history, man, as the apostles like to say, okay? Now, if you're not a person, who isn't into history as much, I suggest, that you watch history videos in portions, okay? Because you have to develop patience, man, all right? To truly get this thing, man. So I suggest, you watch it in portions, you take some good notes on different, history videos, man, from the apostles and, different brothers, okay? So that you can get the understanding of what this Bible is talking about. So without further ado, man, I'll start here in this lesson. And I'll get to the point here in the prophecy concerning the Greek Empire in Daniel chapter 8. All right. Now, Daniel, he covered also the Medo-Persian Empire in this chapter as well, because they pretty much go hand in hand with the Greek Empire. But I want to focus in specifically on the Greeks, and Lord willing, this be edifying. So starting here in Daniel chapter 8, verse 5, it says, "And as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes." Now, who is the he-goat talking about? Okay. If you jump down here in the chapter, the angel explains it unto Daniel, okay? About the he-goat, it says the goat, right? This is Daniel 8 and 21. It says the rough goat is the king of Grecia, right? And the great horn that is between his eyes is the first king. And who is that first king talking about? It's talking about Alexander the Great. How do we know this? The scriptures. Real quick, this is First Maccabees chapter 1, and I'm just going to only read verse 1, okay? It says, "This history begins with Alexander the Great, son of Philip of Macedonia, marched from Macedonia and attacked Darius, king of Persia and Media." Now, if you read that in the KJV, okay, it'll mention about him being the first. Real quick, I'm gonna grab that also in the KJV. First Maccabees 1 and 1, right? So if you read that here in the KJV, it says, "And it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes, that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece." So when the angel broke that down to Daniel, he was talking about the Greek Empire, and specifically, he was talking about Alexander, right? That first king, okay? So back in Daniel 8 and 5, right? I read it again. It says, and as I was considering, behold, an he-goat came from the west on the face of the whole earth. Now, what west is it talking about, right? It says he came from the west. If you look at an ancient map, okay, as you can see here, you got, Macedon, but then you have the Persian Empire, okay? The Persian Empire is east of Macedon or Greece, okay? So Alexander, he's known as a Macedonian, right? He came from the west to attack the Medo-Persian Empire, okay? And at the time, the king was Darius III, all right? And we'll get into that. So that's what it means, man. Now, finish it out. It says, and touched not the ground, and the goat had a notable horn between his eyes. Verse 6 says, and he came to the ram that had two horns. Okay, the two horns represents the Medes and the Persians. All right. And we know according to prophecy that the Persian Empire was greater than the Medes. All right. It speaks about that in this chapter. But for time's sake, I'm not going to cover each and every, little tad bit of information, man. All right. Because I want to draw this thing out. But that's the two horns. It says, which I had seen standing before the river, and he ran unto him in the fury of his power. This is going into Alexander the Great, pretty much battling the Medo-Persian Empire. Okay. It says, and I saw him come close unto the ram, and he was moved with choler against him, meaning pretty much hate. All right. He was furious against the Medes and the Persians, man, because there was a lot of battles going on between them, and pretty much the Medo-Persian Empire was oppressing the Greeks, right? So when Alexander got the power, man, and the Lord put the spirit on him, he went to battle them, all right? It says, and smote the ram and break his two horns, meaning what? He took down the Medo-Persian Empire. It says, and there was no power in the ram to stand before him, but he cast him down to the ground and stamped upon him, and there was none that could deliver out of his hand. So he took down the Medo-Persian Empire, man. Okay? All through prophecy, it was prophesied for him to do what he did. Okay? Reading on, it says, therefore, the he-goat waxed very great, right? He waxed very great, meaning that he had a great empire, man. He became strong, right? He became mighty, man, because the Medo-Persians, they had a vast empire, man. Now, at the height of the Medo-Persian Empire, you had Xerxes, who is spoken about in the scriptures in the book of Esther, man. He had 120 provinces that he reigned over, okay? That's like having 127 states, okay? That's a lot of land, a lot of dominion, and he had that. So Alexander, he claimed all of that when he took down the Medo-Persian Empire. It says, and when he was strong, the great horn was broken, meaning what? Alexander died. Okay, and we'll get into that as well. He died right after 12 years of reigning. It says, and for it came up four notable ones toward the four winds of heaven. And that's what we're going to cover, man. Okay, the four notable ones. All right. Who reigned after the death of Alexander the Great. Okay. So now I wanted to go back here to the Maccabees. You know what? Yeah, I read it in KJV. Okay. So going back here to the book of Maccabees, all right, because it covers, that history, man, of what took place when Alexander the Great died. So starting back here in First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 1, it says, and it happened after that Alexander, son of Philip, the Macedonian, who came out of the land of Chittim, had smitten Darius, king of the Persians and Medes that he reigned in his stead the first over Greece, and made many wars, and won many strongholds, and slew the kings of the earth, and went through to the ends of the earth, and took spoils of many nations, insomuch that the earth was quiet before him, whereupon he was exalted, and his heart was lifted up. So after Alexander had conquered pretty much the known world at that time to them, he waxed proud, man. Also, it mentioned in history that when he couldn't conquer no more land, he cried. Okay, that's how much of a devil Esau is, man. When he couldn't, kill, rob, all right, and pillage anymore, he started to cry, even though he had a vast, all right, kingdom that stretched, all right, from Greece all the way to damn near to China almost. Okay, he had a lot of land, bro, but he wanted more. Okay, and they go to show you, right, that Esau can't be satisfied, man. No matter what he has and what he controls, he wants more and more and more. All right, it speaks about that also in the book of Habakkuk, chapter 2. Okay, about how the devil can't be satisfied, man. So Alexander, he was a proud individual after he did what he did, man, and take down the Medo-Persian Empire. It says, and he gathered a mighty strong host and ruled over countries and nations and kings who became tributaries unto him. Verse 5 says, and after these things he fell sick and perceived that he should die. Wherefore he called his servants, such as were honorable and had been brought up with him from his youth, and parted his kingdom among them while he was yet alive. So he parted his kingdom unto his generals, all right, his servants who came up with him from his youth, man. Okay. And he had a lot of generals, okay, a lot of servants who was with him. All right. And we'll get into some of that too as well. It says, so Alexander reigned 12 years and then died, and his servants bare rule, every one in his place. It says, and after his death, they all put crowns upon themselves. So did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. Now, this right here is going into pretty much the different battles and the tension that took place between Alexander's generals after his death. Okay, and those wars, brothers and sisters, okay, those wars that were fought between Alexander's generals or his successors are known as the Wars of the Diadochi. Some people say Diadochi, but I think it's pronounced Diadochi, but a tomato. But you can go here on Kings and Generals, all right, YouTube page, and I went to the playlist, and you can get these different battles that took place between Alexander generals. Okay, and the word Diadochi means successors. All right, so those who reigned after Alexander, as you can see here, it says Alexander's successors, First War of the Diadochi, 322-320 BC documentary, and they cover all the wars that took place, man. All right, and there's a lot of wars, a lot of history, a lot of things that took place, man. I'm not going to cover all that. All right, you can go and you can watch these things and see the different generals, all right, who was fighting and whatnot. But I wanted to cover one of those key generals who fought in these different battles, man. Okay. Now, if you just Google here on, Google, you Google Alexander for generals. This is from Khan Academy. It says, instead of one successor, however, there were actually 4 generals who succeeded Alexander, And this is what Khan Academy says. It says Antigonus, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucid. Now, which general or successor isn't mentioned here? It's Lysimachus, okay? And the reason being is because Lysimachus, all right, he pretty much gained his power at the end of a particular battle that took place with, Cassander, Ptolemy, and Seleucus against this guy, Antigonus, okay? Now, in the scriptures, all right, it only mentions, 4 of them, but in history, Antigonus is mentioned as a key general, all right? He's a mention of a 5th general who reigned and had power for a dispensation of time, okay? And I want to cover this guy real quick, Antigonus, because he took, place in these, major battles, man, all right? Him, Perdiccas, Antipater, all right, a lot of them guys, man. Okay, it was a lot of generals who fought in these different wars, man. But Antigonus, he's a key figure who fought in the wars of the Diadochi. Okay, now if you go here, I'm on World History Encyclopedia, all right, and to get to this website, all you have to do is type in ancient.eu. Okay, there's a website that I got from the elder brother Ariala from Dallas. Okay, he put me on this, man. It's a very, good website to cover history. Okay, but as you can see here, it says Antigonus the First. All right, it says Antigonus First, Monothalmus, the one-eyed. Okay, Monothalmus in the Greek means the one-eyed. It says 382, 301 BCE was one of the successors kings to Alexander the Great, controlling Macedonia and Greece. It says when Alexander the Great died in 323 BCE, a conflict known as the Wars of the Diadochi. Okay, as I showed you here, you can go and watch those different wars, man. Okay, it says ensue over his massive empire stretching from Greece to India. And in the book of Maccabees, excuse me here, in the book of Maccabees, okay, that's what it's going into. All right. His different successors battling each other for land, for rule, okay? For many years, man. They had fights. Pretty much like the Game of Thrones, man. But it says it was eventually divided among 3 of his most loyal generals and their families. It says Ptolemy and his descendants. It says the Ptolemaic dynasty, among them Cleopatra VII, who ruled in Egypt, Seleucus first, Nicator. Excuse me if I'm mispronouncing some of these words. It says, and his family ruled in Syria and their eastern provinces. And lastly, the descendants of Antigonus ruled Macedonia and Greece. Although this was the way it ended, it was not how it began. So you can go and you can read the rest of this about Antigonus Monothalmus. Okay, now, as I said, this guy, he fought in a lot of those different wars, in the wars of the Diadochi. Okay, but he was eventually defeated, all right, in one of those key battles that took place, man. And the battle that Antigonus was defeated in is known as the Battle of Issus. Okay, this is one of the major battles that took place, and where he died and he was overthrown by those main 4 generals. Okay, now if you click here on Wikipedia, all right, on the Battle of Issus, okay, it goes into it. Now I'm going to scroll down here and I'm going to enhance it a little bit so you can see it. But it says the Battle of Issus was fought between some of the Diadochi, the successors of Alexander the Great, in 301 BC near the town of Issus in Phrygia. Antigonus first Monothalmus, the Macedonian ruler of large parts of Asia and his son Demetrius were pitted against the coalition of three other successors of Alexander: Cassander, the ruler of Macedon; Lysimachus, ruler of Thrace and Seleucid; first Nicator, ruler of Babylonia and Persia. Only one of these leaders, Lysimachus, had actually been one of Alexander's Atophalakes, which this talking about, him being a bodyguard. Okay, I can't pronounce that word all the way, but he was one of the bodyguards of Alexander. Now, they left out Ptolemy, but Ptolemy did take part in this battle, man. All right, from history, different sources, man. So these four generals, all right, who are the four generals that's spoken about in the scriptures, they made a coalition and they overthrew Antigonus, because this guy, he was damn near about to reclaim all the land that Alexander once had. But according to prophecy, it wasn't for him to do that, okay? Because these four generals had to rule. That's in biblical prophecy, all right? But you can go and you can watch the battle, okay, the different battles and things, all right? You can go read, all the history on that and how this guy was pretty much taken down or overthrown, okay? So I just wanted to mention him because he's a very key figure in all of this history, man, okay? But now, going into the main four generals, right? You got Ptolemy first, you have Seleucus, right? You have Cassander, and then you have Lysimachus, okay? And the scriptures just get to the point of these four generals, all right? They don't mention, the different battles and things that took place and how they came into power, and eventually did what they did, but I gave you the information on how it came about. Okay, the battle, it says, okay, the wars of the diadochi, you can go into that and see how they came to power. Okay. But the four generals that the scriptures are speaking about here, once again, it's talking about Ptolemy first, Seleucus, right? Cassander and Lysimachus. So I'll just read just the first little paragraph on these guys, and then I'll close out the lesson, man. All right, I don't want to make this too much longer or drawn out, but it says Ptolemy, first Soter, 366 to 282 BCE, was one of the successive kings to the empire of Alexander the Great. He served not only as king of Egypt, but also the founder of the Ptolemaic dynasty, a dynasty which included the infamous Cleopatra VII. Now, real quick, for you black unconscious Negroes out there, okay? And Jake in general, because Jake like to mention Cleopatra and talk about how she was a black woman, and no, she wasn't. Cleopatra was an Edomite, okay? She was an Edomite. And Cleopatra, okay, she came from the Seleucid line, all right? She came from the Seleucid line. This guy, okay, an Edomite. That's who she came from. She didn't descend from the ancient Egyptians, man. Ptolemy, he just reigned in Egypt, okay, and a marriage was pretty much set up between a Ptolemy and Seleucid empire, man, okay. But she was not black, so-called, right? She was an Edomite, okay. So jumping here to Seleucus, excuse me, why did that happen like that? Right, so jumping here to Seleucus, all right. It says Seleucus, 358 to 81 BCE, or 305 to 81 BCE, was one of the generals of Alexander the Great. It says who make up the group of the Diadochi successors who divided the vast Macedonian Empire between them after Alexander's death in 323 BCE. It says the others being Cassander, Ptolemy, and Antigonus. You see that? Antigonus, he gonna be always mentioned in the history, man, because he was a key figure, all right? But eventually he was overthrown by these four generals. It says, despite not receiving his share of the fallen king's empire until several years later, it says Seleucus, meaning unconquered or victor, was one of the more capable of the successors to Alexander's empire. It says Seleucus and his descendants established what became known as the Seleucid Empire, which lasted nearly 250 years. And we know, um, according to history, that a wicked ruler came out of his line, okay, which was Antiochus, or some say um, Antiochus, right? And you can read this here in First Maccabees 1:10. It says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, or Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Okay, this who he came out. He came out of Seleucus. All right. Next guy here, it says Cassander. Okay. It says Cassander was self-proclaimed king of Macedon during the political turmoil following Alexander's death. Born in Greece as the son of Antipater, or some say Antipater, okay, the regent of the Macedonian and Greece in the absence of Alexander the Great. Now, if you go into these wars, once again, if you go into the wars of the Diadochi, okay, you will hear about Antipater or Antipater. Okay, he's going to be mentioned, all right, because he took place in some of these battles, man, all right, and he was the father of Cassander, one of the key generals of Alexander the Great, spoken about in the scriptures. It says he ruled beside his father, eventually battling against the commander of Polyperchon, right? This guy Polyperchon, man, he's mentioned also in the wars of the Diadochi. Okay, if you get a chance to watch those videos, you'll see why I started laughing at this guy right here, man, Polyperchon. Okay, it says for supremacy in Greece, his alliance with Seleucus and Ptolemy against Antigonus brought him into the wars of the Diadochi, the battle over the remnants of Alexander's dominion. It says his murder of Alexander's mother and son ended any hope for him, an heir to the king's empire. Cassander's death in 297 BCE would, for a time, bring stability, but without an heir, his beloved Macedon would fall into the hands of others. Okay, so that's Cassander. And the last guy here, Lysimachus, all right? It says Lysimachus, 361 to 81 BCE, was one of Alexander the Great trusted bodyguards and a member of his companion cavalry. Although he obtained Macedonian citizenship, his father was a Thessalian named Agathocles, right? Please forgive me if I'm mispronouncing that. It says, after Alexander's death in 323 BCE, Lysimachus benefited from his loyalty to the king by being rewarded with the strategically important province of Thrace, an area northeast of Macedon along the Black Sea coast. While he initially remained relatively uninvolved in a series of wars that immediately followed Alexander's death, right? So he pretty much got his rule at the last minute, okay, like Lysimachus did. It says he eventually sought to expand his land holdings and untimely joined his fellow members in a war against antagonist Monothalmus, the one-eyed, and his son Demetrius first in Macedon. Success would follow, but at a hefty price. So as you can see, these different generals, they all gathered together to overthrow Antigonus, man. Okay, this guy, he was about to pretty much overtake Alexander's whole empire, man. I mean, everything that Alexander had, he damn near got it back. But according to prophecy, it wasn't for him to do all that. Okay. those 4 generals had to reign and had to do what they did, man. Okay? But the true prominent of these 4 generals is Ptolemy and Seleucus, okay? In which, a lot of wars happened between these two men, okay? Known as the Syrian Wars. You get a chance to go into that information as well. But that's a lesson, man, in the 4 generals. I pray it was edifying. I know it's kind of lengthy a little bit, but as I said, watch these history videos in portions, okay? Because it can get a little worrisome to the flesh, all right? But hey, this history has to be known. So I pray that was edifying, man. We're going to close out by giving our praise and glory to Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai by Hashem Chakodash. Divine is unto the apostle and elders of the great millstone. Peace and blessing to the elect. Shalom.